Okay, so for this video, we're going to take a look how we go about writing a formula. So a formula is basically a rule that's made using mathematical symbols, and it shows the relationship between two or more variables. So for this first example, we've got apples cost 20p each, bananas cost 30p each. The total cost of A apples and B bananas is C pence. Write a formula for the total cost of A apples and B bananas. So we can see in this first bit of the question, we've got the total cost of A apples and B bananas is C pence. So this is what we're going to start with. We're going to start with this variable C, and this is what we call the subject of the formula. So this C represents the total cost of A apples and B bananas. So we now need to write the rest of the formula. So next we're going to have our equal sign, because our formula is a type of equation. So first of all, let's start with the apples. How would we figure out the cost of the apples? So if apples cost 20 pence each, and we're buying A apples, we would simply do 20 multiplied by how many apples we're actually buying. So we'd take our 20, we'd multiply it by this variable A, and that would give us 20A. So the cost of the apples would be this term 20A. We then need to add on the cost of the bananas. Well, we're told bananas cost 30 pence each, and we're buying B bananas. So all we do here is take this 30 and multiply it by the variable B. So our final formula for this question would be C is equal to 20A plus 30B. So if we were given values for our variables A and B, and we knew how many apples were bought and also how many bananas were bought, we'd be able to substitute it into this formula and figure out the actual cost in pence. So that's something we have to look out for as well, that the units are consistent. So we have the total cost was C pence, and the amounts that we were given for apples and bananas were also in pence. So we've used consistent units throughout. So hopefully that example made sense. We're now going to take a look at some practice questions. So feel free to pause the video at any point and have a go at these, and then we'll go through the solutions. So for this question, we've got the cost of hiring a car can be calculated by using this formula. The cost is equal to £100 plus 40 pence per mile. We need to write a formula for the cost C pounds of hiring a car which has been driven for M miles. So we haven't been given a value here, we've been given the variable M, the amount of miles that have been driven. So to begin with, we need to find the subject of our formula. Well, here it's going to be this variable C, because this C is going to be the total cost of hiring a car which has been driven for M miles. So it says in the question C pounds. So that's the units we need to be using throughout this question. So our formula is going to start C is equal to, and then looking at what we were given at the beginning of the question, the cost is going to be equal to £100. But because we know our formula is already in pounds, we can just write 100 here. And in the next bit, it says plus 40 pence per mile. So to figure out that remaining cost there, all we would do is take this 40 pence and multiply it by every mile that has been driven. But we need to remember the units we're using in the question. For this formula, we're actually dealing with pounds. So instead of 40 pence, I'm going to convert this into pounds. So 40 pence in pounds would be 0.40. So now I can take this decimal. So now continuing my formula, we're going to add on, instead of our 40 pence, we've got 0.40 pounds. So I'm just going to write 0.4. And then we said for this remaining bit, we had to multiply that 40 pence by every mile that's been driven. Well, we're told in the question that the car has been driven for M miles. So we do 0.4 multiplied by M. That's just going to give us 0.4 M. So that would be my final formula there. The total cost, C, for hiring a car which has been driven for M miles, all in pounds, would be equal to 100 plus 0.4 M. Okay, for this next question, we've got the diagram shows a regular octagon. Write a formula for the perimeter of the octagon P in terms of S. So we know the subject of our formula is going to be P, and that represents the perimeter of this shape. So now we have to figure out what comes next. So we've got a regular octagon, which we need to figure out the perimeter of. Well, because we know it's a regular octagon, that means that all the sides are going to be the same. So if we're given on the diagram that that bottom side has a length of s, that means that all the sides will have a length of s. As we said, it's a regular octagon. So now we want to find the perimeter of this shape. So to find the perimeter of any shape, all we have to do is add up all its lengths. So we're adding up this term s 8 times. So if we add it up 8 times, or we could do 8 multiplied by s, that would simply give us 8s. So our formula here would simply be P, which is the perimeter of the whole shape, is equal to 8s. Okay, for this next question, we've got rulers cost 30p each and pens cost 45p each. Write a formula for the total cost t pence for x rulers and y pens. Well, the first thing we want to check here is our units. We can see that the pens and rulers have been given in pence, and the formula that we're going to find for the total cost is also in pence. So we have our common units here. So the subject of our formula is going to be t. And that's going to be for the total cost of x rulers and y pens. So how do we figure out how much the rulers would cost? Well, we take the amount that each ruler costs, which is 30p each, and we'd multiply that by the amount of rulers that we bought. So we'd simply do 30 multiplied by x. That's just going to give us 30x. So that would be the cost of the rulers. And then for the cost of the pens, well, if pens are 45p each, and we need to write a formula for the cost of y pens, we'd simply do 45 multiplied by y, which would give us 45y. So here I've got the total cost of the rulers. Here I've got the total cost of the pens. For the total cost of both of them, I simply now need to add these terms together. So for our formula t, which is the total cost in pence for x rulers and y pens, would be equal to 30x plus 45y. And for this final question, we've got this shape is made from 4 identical squares. Write a formula for the area, A, of the entire shape. So looking at the diagram here, we've got our 4 identical squares, and on our bottom square, we can see that we've been given a base of s. So all we need to do first is figure out the area of that bottom square. So because that dimension at the bottom is s, because it's a square and all the sides are the same, we also know that this dimension here is also s. So now all we're going to do is figure out the area of that particular square. So using our formula, for the area of a square, we're simply going to do base times height. Well, here, because it's a square, we know those values are going to be the same. So for our base, we've got s multiplied by our height, which is also s. Well, if we do s times s, that's going to give us s squared. So we've got the area of the square here is s squared. But we know from the question that all of these squares are identical, so the area of each other square would also be s squared. So now we've got the individual areas. To find the area of the entire shape, all we have to do is add those terms together. So for our formula for the total area, we've got the subject of our formula, which is going to be A. So as we said, the total area of that shape there is just going to be all those terms of s squared added together. Or if I add those 4 terms of s squared together, that's simply going to give me 4s squared. And that would be the final answer to that question. So well done if you followed along with those questions. And that's it for this video. If you want to check out any other videos relevant to this topic, then I've left some links to them down in the description, and I've also put a card in the top corner, so feel free to check them out. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please feel free to leave a like and consider subscribing. If there are any topics at all you'd like me to go through next, then please just let me know down in the comments, and I'll try to make some videos on those topics as soon as possible. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.